Scootaloo versus a Stupid Cop. Written by Unicop. Read by no one and nobody. Scootaloo stared at the officer in disbelief.
You want my what? Your license and registration, miss,
The officer repeated firmly.
Hoof 'em over. I don't have one of those. I don't even know what that last one is. Miss, you need a license to operate a vehicle in Equestria. It is required by law to have said vehicle registered with your local DMV. But this is a scooter!
Scootaloo cried out, pointing a hoof at her prized possession.
That law is only for motorized vehicles. Scooters don't count. Plus, I'm only like 10 years old. Miss, the reason I pulled you over was because you were riding on the wrong side of the bike path back there. Riding on the wrong side of the road?
Scootaloo repeated.
What the flop are you talking about? You were blocking my way on the path, and I was just passing you. Still, miss, you are not allowed to ride on the right side of the path into oncoming traffic. That's unsafe. Nobody was coming the other way, and it's a dotted line.
Scootaloo pointed at the yellow markings along the middle of the pathway.
Yellow dotted lines means you are allowed to pass, which was exactly what I was doing. A straight line means no passing, but a dotted line means you're allowed to. This is a dotted line, correct? Miss, spare me the commentary on the law. Point is, you were riding on the wrong side of the path. No, I wasn't. Listen to me,
The officer interrupted.
One thing, I'm a cop. Wouldn't you rather see a police officer around here making sure there's no crimes being committed? Most ponies would love to see a police officer doing his job. Gee, I'd love to see that too.
Scootaloo shot back, her words dripping with sarcasm.
Yet here you are, pulling me over for making a turn on a dotted line, while some pony out there is probably getting robbed or destroying public property. Miss, we are not talking about every pony else right now. We are talking about you riding on the wrong side of the path, which is dangerous. For the last time, it's a dotted path!
Scootaloo shouted, thrusting her hooves out again at the yellow lines.
Tell me, does a dotted path mean you can pass or not? Yes or no? Because I'll be more than happy to go ask another officer up at the station. Who's there? What's their name? Okay, miss. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to write you a ticket for unsafe speed.
Scootaloo had to do a double take on that one.
Unsafe speed? On a child's scooter? Yes, miss, and the reason I'm going to write you up for unsafe speed is because you're arguing with me. So, in other words, you're not writing me up for an actual violation. You're just writing me up for knowing the law better than you do. No, miss, the reason I'm writing you up for unsafe speed is because you were riding on the wrong side of the bicycle path, while looking at me and complaining because a police officer was standing on the bicycle path. That's unsafe. This is a joke, right?
Scootaloo face-huffed, shaking her head.
Right, officer? Just a flipping joke? No, miss, the law is not a joke. Now, what's your name?
The officer asked, pulling out a small clipboard and a pen.
Princess Celestia. Miss, do I honestly look that stupid to you? Actually, yes,
Scootaloo muttered as a few passers-by giggled.
Miss, let's not play games here. Now, what's your name? Scootaloo. Thank you. When is your birth date? June 17th, 2005.
Scootaloo answered, continuing to give the officer a glare that clearly wished him a most painful death.
All right, Miss Scootaloo, and how old are you? Are you kidding me? I just told you like 5 minutes ago. Miss, I'm tired of arguing with you. Please just tell me your age. Look, I just gave you my birthday, right?
Scootaloo asked, as though she were a teacher talking to one of her students.
So, it should be simple math to just count down from the year of my birth to this year to figure out how old I am. You did at least pass the 3rd grade, right? As a matter of fact, yes, I did. Okay, then, so let's start from 2005 and count down.
Scootaloo began counting on her feathers.
1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, you should be doing this yourself. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
The officer began counting reluctantly, while more and more onlookers stopped along the path, staring and laughing at him.
Very good. Now this may come as a shock to you, but you may have to actually use your brain on this last one. Try not to strain yourself.
Scootaloo grinned, clearly enjoying herself.
Now, what comes after 9? 10? Very good!
Scootaloo reached up and petted the officer on his helmet, while onlookers rolled around on the floor in fits of laughter.
Good boy! Who's a good little bit of copy-woppy? Want the good copy-woppy like a cookie-wookie?
The officer pulled away from her reach and busied himself with writing on the ticket. Even through his visor, Scootaloo could tell he was fuming with embarrassment.
Okay, miss. Now if you are done acting like a child... I am a child, you incompetent buffoon!
Scootaloo reminded him, causing more laughter from the crowd.
Can I have your address, miss?
The officer asked, his voice beginning to show signs of irritation.
Aren't you a little old for me?
Scootaloo asked, doing her best Rarity impression.
Your address, miss! Sure, I live with my parents,
Scootaloo answered.
And where do they live, miss? In the house,
Scootaloo answered, grinning.
And where is their house? Next to our neighbors. And where do your neighbors live? You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Scootaloo's grin turned into a smirk.
Where? Next to my parents' house.
The officer suddenly threw his clipboard onto the ground, his face contorted with rage.
Okay, miss, I've had quite enough of your little games. Since you've already given me your name and birth date, I can just look up your address back at the station. And after that, not only am I going to send you a speeding ticket, but I'm also going to put in a warrant for your arrest for harassing a police officer. What do you think of that, pint size? Go ahead. I'm sure your boss would love to hear how you bullied an innocent filly for making a perfectly legal turn on a dotted line.
Scootaloo called his bluff.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to make a personal complaint to both Princess Twilight and Princess Celestia about police brutality. And I'll be sure to give them your name, Officer Trix Maiden.
Scootaloo read his name off his badge before the officer was able to cover it. A flicker of fear passed over the officer's face at Scootaloo's threat, but he shrugged it off, returning to his security cart. He gave her one final glare before slamming on the gas pedal, only to find out he had switched gears to reverse on accident and drove backwards into the pond at full speed.
You're an embarrassment to law enforcement. You know that?
Scootaloo shouted down at the officer as he sputtered angrily, attempting to stay above water. Scootaloo left, wondering who in their right mind hires a cop who can't even swim.